Have you wondered if the deep, unspoken desires of your heart will ever be realized? God brought you here today to remind you that He not only sees your situation but is intimately aware of every pain, every longing, and every fear that resides in your heart. He knows the weight of the burdens you carry, the countless nights you've spent searching for answers, and the silent prayers you've whispered when no one else was around. The desert you find yourself in right now, that barren place where hope seems distant, is not where you will remain. God has a plan to bring you out, to fulfill the desires of your heart, and to meet your needs in ways that go beyond what you can currently see or imagine. But how do we navigate these moments when the path ahead seems uncertain and every step forward feels like a struggle? It's in these very moments that God calls us to trust Him, to surrender our understanding and lean into His wisdom. Proverbs 3 verse 5-6 tells us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." This verse is not just a command but a promise that if we trust God, even when the way forward is unclear, He will guide us to where we need to be. Just as a father gently guides his child through unfamiliar terrain, God is guiding you through the complexities and hardships of life. He is not distant or indifferent. He is actively working on your behalf, even in the moments when you feel most alone. Imagine the pain and uncertainty you feel as you walk through this desert season. The loneliness, the fear, the longing for something better, they are all very real. But God's message to you today is that your victory is not a distant dream, it's a reality that is already set in motion. Your current situation is not your final destination. God is coming with solutions, with answers that will not only meet your immediate needs but will also fulfill the deeper desires of your heart. He is leading you to a place of abundance, where your pain will be replaced with joy, your uncertainty with peace, and your longing with fulfillment. If this message touches your heart, if it speaks to the deep, unspoken places of pain and desire within you, I encourage you to stay with us and continue listening. There is more to come, more encouragement, more hope, and more truth that will help you navigate this season of life. Before we move on, please take a moment to engage with this message. Like this video, share it with those who might also need a word of hope, and leave a comment below sharing your thoughts or prayers. Your engagement not only strengthens your own faith but also encourages others who are walking a similar path. Together, as a community of believers, we can uplift one another and remind each other of God's unfailing love and promises. Now, let us delve even deeper into how God's promises can transform your life and bring you the peace and victory you so desperately seek. Let me hear a blessed from you all. The safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts, wrote C.S. Lewis in the Screwtape Letters. Have you ever felt like your life is a maze, where each turn brings you closer to despair rather than hope? Do you find yourself wandering through a labyrinth of decisions and uncertainties, where every path seems to lead to yet another dead end? In these moments, when the walls of the maze seem to close in around you, where do you turn for guidance? God invites you to trust Him as your guide through this intricate maze called life. Just as a skilled navigator can discern the right path amidst a sea of confusion, God knows the layout of your life's maze intimately. He sees the obstacles you face, the detours that confuse you, and the dead ends that drain your hope. But more importantly, He knows the way out. He knows the route that will not only lead you out of your current struggles but will also bring you to a place of victory and fulfillment. Have you ever considered that the very frustrations you are experiencing right now are not signs of defeat, but are rather God's way of steering you toward a greater purpose? C.S. Lewis once said, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world." Could it be that the confusion and pain you're experiencing in this maze are God's way of drawing you closer to Him, of making you lean not on your own understanding but on His infinite wisdom? When we find ourselves lost in life's maze, our first instinct is often to rely on our own knowledge, to retrace our steps, or try to figure out the way forward on our own. But what if, Instead, we chose to surrender to God's guidance, trusting that He sees the entire maze and knows exactly which turns will bring us to victory. God is not distant or indifferent to your struggles. He is acutely aware of your deepest longings, the desires you hesitate to voice, and the needs that weigh heavily on your heart. Every step you take in faith is a step closer to the victory that He has already prepared for you. This maze you're navigating is not a place of permanent confusion or defeat. It is a path that God is transforming into a journey toward blessing and abundance. Trusting in God means acknowledging His presence in every twist and turn, believing that He is leading you not just out of the maze but toward a place where your heart's deepest desires will be fulfilled. As you reflect on these words, ask yourself, are you ready to let go of the need to control every aspect of your journey? Are you willing to trust God as your guide, knowing that He sees the way forward even when you don't? Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny, C.S. Lewis wisely observed. But in the midst of your struggles, do you ever find yourself wondering if your breakthrough will ever come? Do you question whether the endless waiting, the prayers that seem to go unanswered, and the pain that lingers are all leading to something greater? God brought you here today to remind you that He is fully aware of every detail of your life, down to the smallest concerns that weigh on your heart. He sees the challenges you face, the battles you fight in silence, and the longings that have yet to be fulfilled. What you have been waiting for is not lost or forgotten. It is already destined to arrive in your hands. This is not a mere chance occurrence, but a divine orchestration by God Himself. Just as the angels of the Lord have your address, so does your blessing know exactly where to find you. Have you ever considered that the delays you experience might be part of a greater plan, designed to reveal God's glory in your life in a way that defies human understanding? When Elijah received his victory, many doubted the authenticity of his testimony, yet it was undeniable proof of God's power. Your story, too, will be a testimony that leaves others in awe, a narrative so compelling that even those who doubted you will have to acknowledge the hand of God in your life. Perhaps you feel overwhelmed by your current situation, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on your spirit. But God's message to you is clear: this torment will not last forever. The circumstances that seem so unchangeable are already beginning to shift. The God who works all things together for good is actively transforming your trials into powerful testimonies of His grace and faithfulness. Can you see the signs of change, however small? Can you sense the movement of God in the midst of your storm? In Romans 8 verse 28, we are reminded, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." This is not just a comforting thought, but a profound truth that should anchor your soul in times of distress. God's plans for you are good, even when the road seems dark and uncertain. He is at work, shaping your story into one of victory and redemption, a story that will glorify Him in ways you cannot yet imagine. So, as you navigate this season of waiting, of wondering, and of weariness, hold on to the promise that God is faithful. The scenario is changing, the breakthrough is coming. Your testimony will be one that brings glory to God and encourages others who are walking a similar path. Do not lose hope, for what is coming is far greater than what has been. Trust in the process and let God's work unfold in His perfect timing. If this message resonates with your heart, if you find comfort and hope in these words, stay with us for more encouragement. Take a moment to engage with this content like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and help us spread this message of hope and faith to others who may need it. Your story is still being written, and God is far from finished with you. Let's walk this journey together, trusting that God's plans are always for our ultimate good. The journey of a Christian is one of profound highs and lows, where the only constant is the unwavering sovereignty of God. In the midst of chaos, do you find yourself questioning the purpose of your struggles? C.S. Lewis once said, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." This thought invites us to ponder whether the trials we endure are not merely random events, but rather the chisel, and hammer in the hands of the divine sculptor, shaping us for a grander purpose. Consider the metaphor of the potter, so vividly brought to life in Scripture. The potter begins with a formless, unappealing lump of clay, yet with patience and skill, it is transformed into a vessel of beauty and utility. Similarly, God, our heavenly potter, uses the fires of adversity to mold our character and deepen our faith. But in those moments when the heat seems unbearable, do you ever wonder if the outcome is worth the pain? Lewis also suggested that God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Could it be that your current suffering is not a sign of God's absence, but rather a powerful testimony in the making? The circumstances that weigh heavily on your heart today are the very tools God uses to craft a narrative of redemption and grace, one that will astonish those who witness it. Just as the clay doesn't resist the potter's hands, we are called to surrender our worries, trusting that God's design is far greater than our own. The scenario that overwhelms you now is not your final chapter. Imagine a story where, at the moment of greatest despair, the plot twists in a way that leaves everyone in awe of the author's genius. In the same way, God is orchestrating a change in your life, a shift that will bring you to a place of joy and fulfillment beyond your current understanding. Do you believe that the same God who has mapped out the galaxies also has your address? He knows your needs intimately, and in his perfect timing, he will not only meet them but exceed your wildest expectations. The tears and pain you experience now will one day be overshadowed by the overwhelming joy and gratitude that his blessings will bring. By faith, declare that the victory already has your name on it, and when it arrives, it will be the undeniable proof of God's glory in your life. Trust the process, for it is in the shaping that we see his hand most clearly. Have you ever found yourself at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take, feeling the weight of life's burdens pressing down on you? In moments like these, it's easy to forget that we're not alone, that a greater power is at work in our lives. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world." Have you considered that your current struggle might be God's way of calling you closer to him? This challenge, though daunting, could be the very thing that propels you into a deeper faith, a stronger trust in God's plan. I encourage you to pause for a moment and reflect on the possibility that God is setting the stage for something greater in your life. What if this hardship is the catalyst for the blessings you've been praying for? We are often so focused on the immediate pain that we lose sight of the bigger picture, the story that God is weaving in our lives. Lewis also reminds us that hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Is it possible that God is preparing you for something extraordinary? Today I invite you to declare with confidence, "I believe, I receive. I take possession of God's blessing." These are not just words, but a proclamation of faith, an affirmation that you are ready to step into the life God has planned for you. As you write these words in the comments, imagine God's blessings already on their way, ready to transform your circumstances. These blessings will not only meet you where you are, but will elevate you to new heights, much like the eagle soaring above life's storms. As described in Isaiah 40 verse 31, God's plan for you is one of victory, not defeat, of abundance, not lack. He has not written failure into your story but triumph. So, do not judge your current situation by the limitations you see. Instead, trust that God's hand is at work, ready to turn your trials into testimonies. Will you allow him to intercede in your life? If so, declare it boldly, "I accept," and prepare to witness his transformative power. Share this message with others who might need a reminder that their story is far from over, that God is still writing the chapters of victory and restoration. Remember, the pain you feel today is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a new chapter that God is crafting with precision and love. His touch can change everything, renewing your strength and filling your life with his goodness and faithfulness. Are you ready to see what God has in store for you? Imagine you are standing before a blank canvas, holding a brush in your hand, uncertain of the masterpiece it will become. The brushstrokes are slow and deliberate, yet you can't see the full picture. Like the artist's process, our lives often seem ordinary or incomplete, and we wonder, what is God painting with my life? C.S. Lewis once remarked, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Could it be that in your current struggles, God is crafting a masterpiece that only he can envision? The caterpillar doesn't know it will become a butterfly, and yet it submits to the process, trusting the unseen work within the chrysalis. We are much like that caterpillar, often unaware of the divine transformation occurring within us. But why do we doubt the process? Why do we look at our current state and lose hope? Lewis also said, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. This destiny, though unseen, is as certain as the butterfly's wings emerging from the cocoon. The trials you face now are not the end of your story, they are the brushstrokes of God's hand, preparing you for the glory that awaits. Do you see yourself as unfinished, or can you trust that God is still at work? Even in silence, with one divine touch, everything can change. What if this moment of waiting is God's way of strengthening your wings for flight? Open your heart, embrace the transformation, and trust that God is turning your story into a masterpiece. As you stand at the crossroads of fear and faith, have you ever wondered why the path of righteousness seems so fraught with challenges, while those who do wrong often appear to prosper? It's a question that has troubled the hearts of many, but within Psalm 37, we find a divine response that transcends time and circumstance. C.S. Lewis once reflected on the nature of suffering, reminding us that God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Indeed, our trials are not signs of divine abandonment, but rather the crucible in which our faith is purified and made stronger. Instead of fretting over the apparent success of evildoers, Lewis would urge us to see beyond the present moment, to view life through the lens of eternity. The grass that seems green and lush today will wither and fade, just as the wicked who appear strong and invincible will one day be no more. What if we placed our trust fully in the Lord, not just as a passive act, but as an active commitment to live out his goodness in a world that desperately needs it? Could this trust transform our perspective, helping us to see that God's justice, though it may seem delayed, is always sure? In those moments of quiet despair, when it feels like the darkness is winning, Lewis's words encourage us to be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. This stillness is not a sign of weakness but of profound strength, a declaration that we believe in a God whose timing is perfect. How often do we allow anger and frustration to lead us down paths of bitterness? Psalm 37 calls us to turn away from wrath, reminding us that it only leads to more pain. The meek, those who choose humility over pride, will inherit the earth and experience the deep peace that only God can provide. As we navigate the complexities of life, where the wicked plot and scheme against the righteous, we can find solace in knowing that their plans will ultimately fail. The Lord, who sees all and knows all, laughs at the folly of those who think they can outwit his divine plan. What if, instead of worrying about the injustice around us, we chose to delight in the Lord, trusting that he will fulfill the deepest desires of our hearts? Lewis's wisdom echoes through the ages. The pain I feel now is the happiness I had before. That's the deal. The trials we face are not the end of our story, but a part of the journey that leads to a greater reward. As we commit our ways to the Lord, trusting in his goodness, we can be assured that our righteous reward will shine like the dawn and our vindication like the noonday sun. Will you trust in his plan, even when the path seems uncertain, believing that in the end, the meek will indeed inherit the land? In the unfolding drama of life, where do you find your anchor? Is it in the fleeting wealth of this world or in the steadfastness of righteousness? C.S. Lewis once observed, "He who has God and everything else has no more than he who has God only." This profound truth calls us to examine where our true security lies. In a world where the wicked seem to flourish, their wealth and power are like the lush pastures, green and vibrant today, but withered and gone tomorrow. The swords they wield in their pursuit of dominance ultimately turn inward, piercing their own hearts, for there is no lasting peace in wickedness. Consider the lives of those who choose righteousness. Their steps are established by the Lord, and though they may stumble, they are never left to fall into despair, for the Lord upholds them with his hand. How often do we see the righteous enduring trials, yet never forsaken? Their lives, even in times of scarcity, are marked by an abundance that the world cannot comprehend, an abundance of peace, contentment, and a generosity that flows from a heart aligned with God's law. Reflect on the contrasting fate of the wicked. They borrow but do not repay, living in a cycle of taking without giving, their lives ultimately reduced to nothing more than smoke here one moment, gone the next. Lewis aptly noted that a man whose hands are full of parcels can't receive a gift. The wicked, consumed by their own pursuits, miss the very blessings that God freely offers to those who walk in his ways. The heritage of the righteous is not measured in material wealth, but in the legacy of faith and justice they leave behind. Their mouths speak wisdom, their hearts harbor God's law, and their steps do not falter. The Lord watches over them, ensuring that even when they face trials, they are not abandoned. Are you not comforted by the promise that the Lord will exalt those who wait for him, those who keep his way? In the end, the wicked may spread like a flourishing tree, but it is the upright who will endure. They will inherit the land and dwell upon it forever, their lives a testament to the salvation that comes from the Lord. So, mark the blameless and observe the upright, for their future is secure, while the path of the transgressor leads only to destruction. Is it not wise, then, to turn away from evil and do good? For in doing so, you align yourself with the unshakable foundation that is God's justice, ensuring that your steps will not slip. The salvation of the righteous is from the Lord, their stronghold in times of trouble. The Lord delivers those who take refuge in him, protecting them from the schemes of the wicked. So where does your security lie, in the fleeting or in the eternal? The choice, as Lewis would remind us, is clear: aim at heaven and you will get earth thrown in. Aim at earth and you get neither. In this moment of prayer, as you find yourself pausing amidst the whirlwind of daily life, consider this: what does it mean to truly trust in God's provision? C.S. Lewis once pondered the profound simplicity of faith, suggesting that it is in the quiet moments of surrender that we often hear God's whisper the loudest. So here, in this space where you have chosen to listen, know that God is already at work. His presence is palpable, wrapping around you like a warm embrace, reassuring you that he is near, even when the world feels distant. Let us reflect on the struggles you face, financial burdens that weigh heavily on your heart. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when your efforts seem fruitless. Yet, as Lewis reminds us, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Could it be that these challenges are shaping you, refining you like gold in the fire? Imagine the possibility that God is not only aware of your needs, but is orchestrating a plan that exceeds your wildest dreams. He is the God of abundance, the creator of opportunities, and the giver of ideas that spark creativity and innovation. What doors could he be ready to open for you, if only you would trust him to guide your steps? As you reflect on the intricate web of relationships in your life, consider this: are you nurturing these bonds with the intentionality they deserve, or are you merely hoping they will sustain themselves? Relationships, whether flourishing or teetering on the brink of collapse, require continuous effort and grace. C.S. Lewis poignantly reminds us that to love at all is to be vulnerable. Vulnerability, though often feared, is the cornerstone of deep, meaningful connections. Yet, how often do we truly allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to lean into the discomfort that comes with opening our hearts fully to another? For those whose marriages or friendships are thriving, ask yourself, what are you doing to protect this precious gift from the subtle, corrosive forces of envy, pride, or complacency? It is easy to take a strong relationship for granted, assuming it will always be there, unwavering. But could it be that God is calling you to fortify this bond even further? To invest more time, more prayer, more love, ensuring that it is built on the unshakable foundation of His wisdom and grace. And what about those who find themselves in the throes of relational turmoil? Perhaps the conflict is not a sign that the relationship is doomed, but rather an invitation from God to seek His guidance more earnestly. Could it be that this storm you're facing is not meant to destroy you, but to draw you closer to Him, to teach you how to navigate the rough waters with a heart full of faith and a spirit anchored in His promises? C.S. Lewis once observed that pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our consciences, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Could the pain you're experiencing in a toxic relationship be God's way of shouting to you, urging you to reclaim your worth and dignity? In such moments, it is essential to remember that you are not bound to relationships that diminish your soul. Lewis's words echo through the ages, reminding you that you are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. What if now is the time to walk away, to seek the healing that God is offering, and to trust that He has a future prepared for you where love and respect are not just hoped for, but are the very foundation. Turning to the realm of personal health, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, the question arises: what does it truly mean to thrive? In a world that often equates thriving with the absence of struggle, C.S. Lewis offers a different perspective. He speaks of the long, difficult road of faith, where true thriving is not found in avoiding challenges, but in embracing them with courage and trust in God's plan. When faced with anxiety, fear, or depression, it is easy to feel as though you are failing, as though your faith is somehow insufficient. But what if these battles are not a reflection of your weakness, but of your strength? What if they are God's way of equipping you with the resilience and fortitude needed to fulfill the greater purpose He has for your life? Lewis once remarked that faith is the art of holding on to things your reason has once accepted. In spite of your changing moods in the midst of your struggles, it is tempting to let go of the truths you once held dear, to succumb to the shifting tides of doubt and despair. But what if, instead, you chose to hold on even tighter, to cling to the promises of God with a faith that defies circumstances? What if this journey, with all its pain and uncertainty, is God's way of preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine? So, as you navigate the complexities of relationships and health, remember this: God is not distant or indifferent to your struggles. He is the ultimate healer, the restorer of broken hearts and fractured souls. Whether you are called to deepen a flourishing relationship, seek His wisdom in the midst of turmoil, or step away from a toxic bond, trust that He is with you every step of the way, guiding you, strengthening you, and preparing you for the abundant life He has promised. And in your battles with anxiety, fear, or depression, know that these are not signs of defeat, but opportunities to deepen your reliance on Him, to discover the strength and courage that lie within you, placed there by the very God who created you. As you raise your voice in prayer, think of the angels that God has stationed around your home, your family, your life. These celestial beings are not just passive observers, they are active participants in the unfolding of God's plan for you. They bring peace where there is strife, understanding where there is confusion, and unity where there is division. In the words of C.S. Lewis, you are never alone. God is with you, and His angels are by your side. So, as you repeat the words, "By the end of this day, I will have a beautiful testimony to share," do so with the confidence that God is moving in ways you cannot yet see. By the end of this month, as you declare that an angel of the Lord will bring good news, believe that the heavens are aligning in your favor. And by the end of this year, when you proclaim that a great victory will come into your hands, trust that God has already written this victory into your story. Let us join our voices in the prayer that Jesus Himself taught us, acknowledging God's sovereignty and surrendering to His perfect will. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be Thy name. Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For Thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. As you move forward from this moment, Carry with you the assurance that God's provision, protection, and peace are with you. Remember, the road may be long and the journey challenging, but as C.S. Lewis so beautifully stated, there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. Your testimony is being written, and it will be a story of triumph, faith, and the undeniable goodness of God. Imagine, for a moment, the depth of trust you place in God's hands. What does it mean to truly surrender your life to His will, to lean not on your understanding but on the steadfast foundation of His promises? This is not just a routine of empty words, but a profound act of faith, a daily renewal of your soul, where every decree becomes a lifeline connecting you to the divine. C.S. Lewis once remarked, "We may ignore, but we can nowhere evade, the presence of God." The world is crowded with Him in those moments of struggle, when life's challenges seem insurmountable. Do you sense the nearness of God, or do you allow fear to obscure His presence? It's in these moments that your faith is tested and refined, much like gold in the fire. Your decrees, spoken in faith, are not mere affirmations, they are declarations of trust in God's sovereign plan, a reflection of your belief that He is at work in every detail of your life, even when you cannot see it. Lewis also wrote about the problem of pain, emphasizing that pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is His megaphone to rouse a deaf world. When you face difficulties, do you see them as obstacles or as opportunities for God to demonstrate His faithfulness? Your current struggles, no matter how overwhelming they seem, are the very circumstances God will use to showcase His glory and your transformation. Just as Lewis saw suffering as a means of drawing closer to God, your challenges are molding you, preparing you for a future that is not yet revealed, but assured in His timing. In a world where uncertainty often reigns, your daily decrees become anchors for your soul. They remind you that God's presence is not just a fleeting comfort, but a constant reality. He knows your needs intimately, and He is meeting them, even in ways you might not immediately recognize. Have you considered that your current situation, no matter how dire it appears, does not determine your future? With one divine intervention, everything can change. God is not only with you, He is orchestrating every detail of your life, preparing a testimony that will astonish others and glorify Him. Lewis's insights remind us that God is never absent from our struggles. In fact, it is in our most trying times that His presence becomes most evident. Your faith, expressed through these decrees, is not just for your benefit but for those around you. You are, as the text suggests, the pillar of your household, a beacon of light through whom God's blessings flow to your family. Your prayers are not in vain, they are the very instruments God uses to bring protection, healing, and hope to those you love. So, I urge you, do not cease in this spiritual practice. Let your prayers be a continual offering to God, trusting that He hears and will act according to His perfect will. Allow Him to use you, as He used Lewis and countless others, to reach those who are hurting and in need. Your life, filled with faith and perseverance, will be a living testimony to God's love and power, a testament that will leave others in awe of what God can do through one willing heart. As you close your eyes tonight, may God reveal His plans to you in dreams, filling you with peace and assurance that He is in control. And remember, you are not alone in this journey. I stand with you in faith, praying that God will guard, protect, and bless you mightily. He has brought you to this moment, not by chance, but by divine design, to remind you that your victory has already been secured in Him. Amen.